What's it kind of been like just seeing this public feud play out while you have sports like the NBA, the NHL just doing their business behind closed doors and positivity?
Yeah,
it's like the MLB is all negativity.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. It's been amazing, somehow not surprising, yet very depressing to see the other sports sort of slowly behind the scenes work out ways to come back. And with baseball, it's been a constant war for weeks. And as we sit here right now, it feels like they are so far away from working out a deal. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I somehow still believe they're going to figure out a way to make this work. But man, oh man, they are right now living on different planets and the clock is ticking.
It is. So like you said, there's a lot of frustration from the latest MLB proposal, which now the second pay cut was in the form of a sliding scale, ranging from 10% to the lower earning players to almost 80% for the players like Mike Trout, Garrett Cole on those levels. So I'm curious because on Twitter, at least, the other day, you Googled negotiating ploys and put out that definition and tried to at least calm everyone down of, listen, this is what negotiations are, this is how it goes, and then eventually the two sides have concessions and then they get a deal done. So I'm curious, what's your concern level? You see a lot of players, Max Scherzer, the latest, putting out a strong note late last night. Seeing the players, they're pretty much outraged with this proposal just almost equally as they were about the 50-50 revenue split. What's your concern level that, maybe the players are really entrenched in their way and a deal could not happen?
Look, it's a legitimate concern. That said, it's still only Thursday. The way these negotiations work between the league and this union is that they are always contentious. They're always intense. They always go down to the wire. It's almost as if they haven't really started negotiating yet. This is just sort of the opening salvos, and eventually I believe they're going to go, okay, enough of the posturing, enough of the rhetoric. Let's actually get into a room and figure this out, or a virtual room, I guess, these days. So I guess if we are still in this exact same place at the end of the weekend and nothing has changed as we head into next week, then I think, okay, maybe it's time to start getting out your pitchforks and panicking. But I'm just not quite there yet.
So, Jared, I'm curious, as someone who's in the game every day, right? You talk to players, you talk to front office folks, you talk to owners. A lot on Twitter, there's a lot of people, the backlash has been towards the players. They're viewed as greedy. A lot of, at least the public, wants the players and viewing the players in a bad light compared to the ownership. I'm curious, as someone who's in the game, who knows these players, knows the owners, do you view the players, not basically wanting a second pay cut as being greedy?
Look, I don't think it's ever as simple as a lot of fans want to believe. In these conversations, like you said, historically, fans tend to side with the owners in these conversations. I don't necessarily know why that is. There's a bunch of theories as to maybe why. The reality is it's complicated. It's a nuanced situation. There's a lot at play here, and I just don't think it's as simple to say, well, the players are greedy and the owners, well, they just want to play. The owners just want games, and the greedy players are not letting it happen. I think that just generally shows a lack of understanding of the whole situation, how labor really works. Let's keep in mind, there's a lot of fans that say all the time, oh, well, there's tons of people that would love to play the game for nothing. I don't even need any money to play baseball.
Yep.
Well, that might be true, but I'm telling you, not a single person would pay to watch you play. We're paying to watch those guys play because they're the best in the world at it. They deserve some respect.
That's an argument, Larry. You hear that, oh man, I'll play that game. It's a kid's game. I'll play for nothing. You're right. No one's paying to watch average guys play baseball. That's for sure. We're talking about Jared Diamond, Wall Street Journal national baseball writer, also author of Swing Kings, and highly suggest a great follow on Twitter at Jared Diamond. So Jared, like I just mentioned before, Max Scherzer, the latest player to rip the latest proposal, and in his explanation, he said MLB's economic strategy would be different if the documentation would become public. So I'm curious. We know publicly what the players are sacrificing, right? They already prorated their salaries, basically cut in half, and now the latest proposal is again another percentage cut on that salary. Do we have any idea what the owners are actually sacrificing monetary wise?
The owners say, the league says that if they play games and pay with no fans and pay the players their prorated salaries, they will lose money. That is what their contention is. The league does not believe that. Or the union, does not believe that. They believe that the owners would make money if they play games with no fans and still paid the players their prorated salaries. And the union is not pleased with the transparency of the league. The union wants the league to fully open their books, They want to be proved. Hey, this is the situation. This is why we're saying that we can't make money with no fans in attendance. This is why you have to take cuts and essentially prove it. Open your books. To this point, the league is not doing that. And that's sort of the heart of the conversation. If at some point the league actually opened up its books fully to the union and was really transparent about it, this conversation would have a much different tenor. I just don't expect to see that happen anytime soon.
Why is that? If that's the case, where if the players, okay, maybe they actually see the raw numbers and realize, all right, maybe it's a lot worse than we thought. We'll take some sort of secondary cut to get on the field. How come, if that's, if we believe that to be somewhat near, or believe the owners that they are going to take a significant loss, why not make that public?
Well, I'll leave you to try to figure out why that might be. Why might the owners not want to open their books?
Interesting.
Look, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I'm just saying there's a lot of private companies that don't want to open their books, and I'm sure there's a reason for it.
Talking with Jared Diamond, national baseball writer for the Wall Street Journal. So yesterday, Jared, I saw Kevin Pillar tweeted 65% of Major League Baseball players make $1 million or less. I wasn't able to verify that, but if we say his number is correct or close to the normal, you would think this latest proposal, where those players would be getting the least amount of cuts, a lot of the players would be on board. But I'm wondering, is this, I guess it's easy to say, but why, how come those players aren't on board, I guess, is the question I'm trying to ask then. If they're taking the least amount of pay cuts, the majority of the league, how come they wouldn't be on board with this latest proposal?
Well, look, I'm sure that there are some players that maybe privately are on board with it, that say, hey, I just want my money. This doesn't affect me. This is, these are like the superstars I know nothing about. I'm sure there are people that feel that way, but they are a union. They are unified. They have solidarity, as they should, and good for them for remaining, at least publicly, as unified as they are. They believe, they know that, they mess with one of them, they mess with all of them, and it would be very unwise for young players to go, sure, Mike Trout, Garrett Cole, Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, they're upset, and we're going to play anyway. Probably not the best idea to alienate the biggest stars in the game, the most powerful players in the game, the guys in the game that, make the most money for the league and for the players.
Interesting. That's a good point. So, Jared, I'm curious, if we look at it strictly from an owner's perspective, isn't it theoretically more important, because they own the team longer than the average, player career? Is it more important for them to look at the long-term gains that could be had if they resume, if they are the only league to resume at one point and really have the market to themselves for a while? Shouldn't the long-term gain of resuming and maybe having a short-term concession, wouldn't the long-term gains outweigh the short-term trying to get as much revenue as possible? Or is that not, the thinking for some of these owners?
Well, you would think that would be the approach, that, hey, let's think about the long-term damage we're doing to this industry by not playing this year. Our franchise valuations, what would happen to them if we don't play this year? Look, it does seem like, to some extent, everyone's sort of looking at the short term, preserving the cash flow right now without thinking about, well, what is this going to do for baseball as a sport moving forward? And you think as an owner, that would be their biggest priority, is preserving franchise valuations, having that number continue to grow. That doesn't seem to be the case right now, which, look, we don't know why. Maybe the cash flow really is a huge problem. Maybe these owners really are all going broke. We just don't know. And I think I understand why fans are skeptical when they hear these guys who have billions of dollars saying they're going to go broke because they can't pay the players 50% of their salaries.
That's at least where I find myself personally on the side of the player, just asking that question. And you see all the money that's come in. You see the revenues, 17 straight years, Jared, as you know, the revenues keep going up. And you think they were playing, take a short-term hit, those revenues would continue to increase. But, like I said, if they're that focused on 2020 and keeping as much money as possible, that really could hurt the revenue flow going forward. So, Jared, as we know, worst case scenario, we've already seen strikes happen in baseball. 1994, obviously the latest example. And so I'm curious, viewing 1994 and now, does the league view this, and maybe players or owners, do they view it as a positive when it comes to these negotiations, in the sense that baseball went through something really bad with the strike in 1994? A lot of fans were very upset, and it took them a while to come back, but they did come back. Or so do you view that as, if we go on strike in 2020, sure, we'll have some public backlash for a few years, but these fans will come back, and being on strike and getting the money is worth it, for a short-term PR hit in the long run will be better? Or do you think they view it as a cautionary tale of, listen, 1994, it took a while. It took 12 years for the attendance to get back to the 1994 level. If we don't have a season this year because of finances, it's going to be 10 times worse than what 1994 is. And they use that as a warning, like we cannot have this happen again. How do you think, the league kind of views players and or owners view the strike in 1994 in your eyes?
I would hope that the owners and the players realize that not playing this year would be far, in my opinion, more damaging to the industry than 94, 95. It would be complete suicide not to play this year because of money. Things have changed in the last 25 years. Baseball is not nearly as popular as it was 25 years ago. The strike is part of why. There's a lot more sort of competing entertainment than there was 25 years ago. It's a different world. And to not play now because of money, I don't see how baseball recovers. I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm not trying to sort of overstate things. I just think it would have a real damning effect on the industry if they're not able to work this out. And I hope that they realize it on some level.
I'm with you. I hope so too, Jack. Like I said, especially now with people wanting baseball back, you see other leagues, sports that we normally wouldn't watch. Bundesliga soccer, the viewership is through the roof. Could only imagine what baseball would be like. And this is their chance to kind of reverse that trend, like you said, of baseball is dwindling. The NBA is rising, the NFL is rising, and the MLB is dwindling or staying where it is. And they definitely are not the pastime of America that they used to be. We're talking to Jared Diamond, national baseball writer and reporter for the Wall Street Journal, also author of Swing Kings, which I want to get to here in a second. But Jared, the billion-dollar question it's going to be, I know it's unfair. May 28th doesn't look great. Ultimately, in your mind, do you think a deal will get done?
Yes, I do. And maybe I'm being naive. But at the end of the day, I just think these guys are ruthless and they're selfish and they're a lot of things. There's a lot of adjectives we could use to describe these guys, but they're not complete imbeciles. Neither the owners nor the players are complete imbeciles. So at the end of the day, I think it would just be suicidal for them not to play this year, and they'll figure it out. Even though as we sit here right now, I have absolutely no idea how that is possible.
Yeah, that bridge is very far, it seems, between the two sides. But like I said, hopefully, fingers crossed, they can mend those fences and get some sort of deal. Because like you said, it's the long-term viability of the league is in major question, if finances are the big reason why they can't play in 2020. So I want to finish with this, Jared. So you have a new book that came out about 2 months ago, Swing Kings, and you discuss and break down the latest evolution of the swing and how it's led to the increase in home runs. So number one, I'll ask you this. Are you a fan of this style of basically now, the analytical-driven MLB, where it's basically home run, strikeout, or walk? Those are really the three outcomes. Are you a fan of this kind of style of basically home run or nothing? And two, you said you took these lessons, right? You talked to Swing Kings, you talked to the gurus, and you yourself took some lessons to try out the uppercut swing. So I'm curious, how was the swing looking after this book was completed?
Certainly better than it was when it started. That's for sure. Yeah, it was probably the most fun part of the book was having the opportunity to get in the cage and learn from some of the most fascinating, interesting, smart hitting minds that are out there right now. That was really a thrill. As for what do I think of the game now, this style, it's a complicated question. Obviously, I think there's real value in sort of an old-fashioned aesthetic to the game, the ball being put in play, guys running, more athleticism, more happening. I think there's value to that. I think the biggest issue that baseball has to worry about, and I know it's cliche, is just figuring out what to do with all the dead time. I do believe there's just too much dead time in Major League Baseball today. Too much standing around, too much time between pitches, too much time between balls in play. It doesn't mean I don't really like home runs. I do like home runs. Home runs are great. But there should probably be more to baseball than just home runs. And inspiring contact and especially feats of athleticism, I do think should be a priority for the industry.
So would you be in favor then of a pitch clock or something to that effect that Rob Manfred has been at least trying and hinting at implementing at some point in his tenure?
I've been in favor of a pitch clock from day one. I think it's an absolute no-brainer. I do not understand why so many baseball fans are so against it. Honestly, I think it's such an obvious fix. I'm not saying it would solve all of baseball's problems, but it certainly would help. It's such an easy place to start that would have no sort of negative impact on the game as far as I'm concerned. But there's a lot of purists out there that even the slightest sort of hint at a rule change inspires months of arguments on Twitter. And I think that just sort of hurts everybody ultimately.